Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's been a few weeks since I put out a video, and really over the last few weeks and really even the last couple of months, things have definitely been very crazy. I'm sure wherever you are in the world, you've definitely been affected by the pandemic and the COVID-19 issue or stuff or whatever you want to call it that we've got going on in the world. Same thing with me, definitely have not been immune to it in the sense that it's definitely affected my life, my business, and all of that. But I'm trying to stay positive, and I've definitely been staying home, trying to stay away from going out as much as possible, trying to keep myself safe, keep those around me safe. Hopefully, you guys are able to do the same wherever you're at. But while I've been at home and spending a lot of time in front of the computer and not being able to go out and actually photograph weddings or engagements or portrait shoots or whatever, I'm still trying to find ways to continue to grow as a photographer, still trying to find ways to continue to grow my business. That way, when all of this does finally get past us, which eventually it will, when we do come out of it on the other end, we'll be better positioned to, as just be better photographers, better positioned in terms of our businesses, and have the structures and the plans put in place to go ahead and continue to accelerate and grow when we do finally put all this behind us. So one of the things that I've been doing over the last couple of weeks that I definitely feel is a very valuable way of spending your time is I've been going back and re-editing a lot of my old weddings and engagements, pretty much all of my old images, anything that's on my website, so my blogs, the website itself, updating those images, Instagram, wherever I have images that are out there where a couple might find me. I've been going back and wherever it's reasonable, I've been going back and re-editing and re-uploading those images to the blogs or wherever. And then that way, when couples come to my website, whether it's current couples or it's future couples down the road from now after the pandemic, wherever it may be, when they come to my website and they find my work, they're going to see work and editing that's reflective of the style of work that I do and the style of editing that I currently do. I'm sure like many of you over the years, your editing style has definitely drifted. It's maybe changed from one thing and then 1 year later it's maybe a little bit different. And then 2 years later down the road, it's changed a little bit more. I definitely feel as photographers and artists, we're always evolving. We're always changing. Our stylistic changes or our stylistic tastes changes over time. I can't speak. So yeah, definitely, like these things change for everybody, and that's okay. I think it's part of the growing process. It's part of finding our own voice, our own style. And that's okay. But from a business standpoint, from a client experience standpoint, I definitely believe it's important to keep those portfolios and those blogs up to date. That way they're seeing what's reflective of your current booking or your current editing style when they book you. So with all that said, we're going to go ahead and jump into Lightroom. We're going to re-edit some photos from a wedding I did a couple of years ago. The way I edited this particular wedding is definitely not reflective of the way I edit now. So we're going to go through, we're going to edit those images. I'm going to walk you guys through my current process for editing images and just kind of the mindset and whatnot that goes along with it. So with all that said, let's go ahead and jump over into Lightroom and get started. All right, guys, so here we are in Lightroom. I've got a few images pulled up. It's not an entire wedding. I don't want to do a video where I edit the entire wedding. I think that would be, it would definitely be a couple hours worth of filming, and I don't think you guys want to sit through that. So I've gone through and picked out kind of a representative set of images from this wedding, and we're gonna go through and edit these in my current editing style and the current presets I use, and go from there. So, and with that, I kind of touched on it just briefly. Presets. I do use presets. The preset that I use is it's one that I created really kind of over a couple of years. It's definitely been something that has evolved over time, or at least it did for quite a while. I would say over the last year, it's become much more static. I've been very happy with it. I finally feel like I've gotten it refined to a point that I'm very happy with. And so yeah, so that's the way I do it, especially for weddings and engagements, anything where you're shooting a lot of volume. I definitely recommend having a set of presets, whether they're your own or a set from a trusted source that you purchased them from. It really helps you, one, maintain a consistent look and style throughout your editing process. That way, from one wedding to the next, the edits are very cohesive. They're looking very similar. They're not changing wildly, which is going to give your portfolio, your website, and really anywhere you're posting your work a very cohesive look and feel. I definitely believe that's important. So if you're doing professional work where you're going to be putting a lot of work out there, I definitely believe in having a consistent style, and presets I definitely believe are a great thing for that. You will see some people out there who are very anti-preset, and I don't really understand why they feel like they need to edit every single photo from scratch every single time. To me, that seems wasteful, and it's not conducive, especially to high volume shooting like weddings. So yeah, presets to me are indispensable. I definitely believe that you should have them for your weddings, your engagements, whatever. One, again, it's going to save you time because you're not editing every single image from scratch. And two, it's going to give you a consistent look and feel from wedding to wedding, engagement to engagement, photo shoot from photo shoot. So again, enough of that, a lot of talking there. So here is a very static image, kind of a very traditional image of the dress hanging. And so, yeah, so definitely not, it's not a bad image. I don't mind the edit, but it's definitely probably not very representative of my editing style now, although this image probably isn't the worst offender within the group here, but I think we're just gonna go ahead and reset it. You can immediately see there's definitely a lot of green in there. I definitely cropped it in previously, which I think was a good thing, but all in all, it definitely needs some help. So we're going to, first of all, adjust the white balance. That's usually the first thing I do. So I guess let's back up again, and even before we get into editing, I know this is a lot of talking, but I feel like it's important to note. So when it comes to the day of the wedding, when I photograph a wedding, I typically shoot in a manual white balance. I'll set it personally myself in camera, mostly because I don't like the look of the white balance changing through the viewfinder or the LCD or whatever. Every time you take a new frame, I like that consistent look and feel when I'm shooting. I don't want to see variations constantly happening, which you will notice if you're looking through the viewfinder all day long in auto white balance. So I kind of lock it in for that scene. Sometimes I get it right, sometimes I don't, but I shoot in RAW, so really ultimately at the end of the day, I can change it to whatever I want it to be. So generally when I bring everything into Lightroom, the first thing I'll do is I'll correct the white balance. Rather than as shot, because usually, to be honest, as shot is usually not correct for white balance. I usually shoot in camera a little bit warmer than really what I want the final edit to be, because I think it looks better through the viewfinder. But that's kind of a minute detail. Anyway, when I get into Lightroom, the first thing I do is change it to auto, and that'll do a couple of things. One, it's going to correct the white balance, the temperature for the environment, at least pretty closely. The other thing it's going to do is it's going to fix the tint. So it's going to add in magenta or take away magenta. And the thing is, with white balance in camera, most people, even if you're setting your manual white balance in camera, you're probably not setting your tint manually in camera. Unless you're using something like a gray card, you're probably not actually setting your tint in camera. So that's something to be aware of. Even if you're setting your Kelvin manually, you still have to set your tint manually as well. And if you're not doing that, there's a very good chance your tint is going to be wrong in your final image, especially if you're not using, like I said, a gray card. And especially if there's if you're outdoors and there's lots of greenery around, that green is going to cast a lot of color into your image. And if you're not paying attention to that, you may come to see later on down the road, when you kind of develop that ability to see that green tint or that magenta tint, it'll be very prevalent. So anyway, correcting white balance. I've done a lot of talking and very little editing in this editing video. So anyway, first thing, I'll correct the white balance, and then I'll go over here and I'll apply my base preset. For me, my base preset is the 01 Essential. That's kind of my go-to. And really the way my presets are structured, there's a lot of them in this set, but really they all have the same underlying tone structure, and everything else is really just kind of modifying that same similar tone for different environments or different needs for that particular image. So everything has the same color and the same tone curve underlying structure to it, the same base. It's just basically, these are all just basically different adaptations for the environment that I'm shooting in. So Essential is my base. It's kind of my go-to. Now in this particular case, I'm gonna go ahead and raise up the exposure a little bit. And that already is looking okay. That's probably about good enough for me. Might bring it up a little bit more. And then the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to crop in again like I had previously, because it's definitely not centered in the doorway. So something like probably right around there is going to be okay. Yeah, something like that I'm happy with. It's maybe just a little bit too warm as well. I've got it on auto. I might pull down the temperature just a little bit. Something like that I think looks okay. Yeah, so I'm happy with that. So let's go ahead and move on. So again, I'm gonna go over here, adjust the white balance, do an auto. So you can see there it immediately corrected for a lot of green and put a bunch of magenta into it, which that's probably a little bit too much magenta. I'm gonna pull that back to about 20, maybe pull the temperature down a little bit, and then I'll apply my preset, and that'll clean things up quite a bit. And then it's a little bit overexposed, so I'm gonna pull that back a little as well. And then now here, a lot of this is very, very white. And you're losing a lot of detail. So I might see, I've got this other preset. Again, it's just a tone adjustment. It's called soft white. And I might pull that down and see what it does. I'm not really liking that. It's making it very flat and almost kind of like a dull, dingy color. So I'm gonna go ahead and leave that as is. That's fine. We've got another dress shot. I remember on this wedding, I felt like in the moment, I wasn't really happy with any of the dress shots I was getting. So I kept trying different variations. And then in the end, I ended up being actually pretty okay and happy with pretty much all of the dress shots. Again, that's a little bit too much magenta. I'm gonna pull that back a little bit. I can maybe play the temperature a little bit. Something like that looks good. Apply my presets. That's okay. It's maybe a little bit too bright. And something like that I'm okay with. And see, again, I got another one. Like, I just was not happy with any of them in the day, but then like when I got them back on the computer, like I felt like they were all okay. And that's just sometimes, you know, that's how it goes. Again, it's adding too much magenta in my opinion. So I'm gonna pull that back down to about 20. The auto white balance, it's putting too much magenta into it. And then again, like this one, it's not quite, I didn't center the doorway in the frame, so I'm kind of clipping off the left-hand side. Oh, it looks like I previously cropped it as well. I probably should have cropped it in a little bit more. And this whole frame is a little wonky. You can see I probably wasn't square on the door. You can see a little bit of the door frame here, but not here. And I don't know, it's a little weird. The dress is centered, so I'm gonna go ahead and call that good. It's good enough for now. Shoes, this is a little bit blue. Again, auto. Let's fix things a little bit. It's probably a little bit too, well, let's go ahead and apply the preset first and see what that does. All right, so we got essential and essential dark. The main thing between these two of them, or these two, is really just kind of with the tone curve. This one pulls down the midtones a little bit, so that can be good. I tend to underexpose a little bit, and so essential, the base preset, kind of fixes that. But for images where I really didn't underexpose too much, essential dark is just a slightly darker version of the base preset. So that's what I'll use. I'm happy with that. This is way too blue. Go to auto, that fixes it a little bit. Again, it's adding way too much magenta in my opinion. And then again, I think dark looks a little bit better here, so I'm gonna go with that. Again, dark looks a little bit better. Let's auto it out. Might add a little warmth. But for the most part, so normally in a normal wedding, what I would end up doing is I would be using the sync button a lot, where I would grab like say multiple images, select them and then use sync and edit a bunch of them all in a row. But in this particular case, since we're not really, this is kind of piecemeal, and I've just kind of selected a bunch of random images to kind of do as an example. I don't really have that ability. So in this case, I think my base preset looks a little bit better. I'm gonna go with that. Auto, that's fine. Base preset, that looks way better to me. So one of the things I used to do with my old edits, and I don't know if I'm doing it here, it doesn't look like it, but one of the things I used to do, and you probably see this a lot in other photographers, is I used to raise the black point in like every image and like do like one of these things and you know, and then like scoop that shit up and like do some other weird stuff. I used to do a lot of that. I've really gotten away from it. Like you can definitely get a style with it very quickly, that's for sure. It'll give you a very distinctive style. But to be honest, I've kind of gotten away from it. I don't know, like every now and again it looks okay. And like even in my little preset pack that I have, like I do have the ability, I've got a curve adjustment that gives a matte look to it. But to be honest, it's really not, it's not something I really do a whole lot of anymore. I really do like more contrasty edits. And when you raise the black point, it really, if you go too far with it, which is really easy to do, it'll definitely kill a lot of that contrast right away. So it's something I've kind of gotten away from for sure. And so here I'm just kind of going through and again, auto white balancing everything and then going up here and like doing one of these two presets. That one looks pretty good. This one would actually probably look pretty good in black and white. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit Command apostrophe and make a virtual copy. And then I'm gonna go down and do one of my, see what it looks like in black and white. So I kind of like this one a little bit better, but it's maybe a little bit too underexposed. And I do like that. So we'll call that good. So in here, like, I don't know, like my old edits were okay, but in some cases the skin tones were a little weird. And just do auto, that's a little bit better. Maybe pull the magenta back just a touch. But one of the things I really focused on with my new like with this preset, my current editing style, and it's been what I've been using for like I said, like the last year, it's really completely centered around skin tones because I mean, when you're shooting weddings, it's so heavily people based. So you really need, you know, to have an editing style or a preset that's really flattering with skin tones. And I think mine do a really good job at that, and I'm really happy with the way that looks compared to the previous version of this edit. Auto. I mean, that just immediately, like, and these aren't designed to be one-click edits, but for a lot of these images, you can kind of get away with it just being one click. But in most of the cases, though, with this preset, like, I don't really have to go into the tone curve or HSL or any of this. This work's already done. It's really mostly when I'm going through and editing, using, you know, these presets that I have for myself, is really just kind of doing fine touches, like with the highlights and the basic correction panel here. So, I mean, if we do before, after, and I just hover over the preset without clicking it, you can see the difference between old and new. Old ones definitely were very blue in the shadows as well, so I probably had something weird going on in the tone curve there. So, I don't know, it's just something that I thought probably looked good back in the day, and now I don't care for it as much anymore. But, you know, it's probably something you'll notice too if you go back and look at old edits. You'll probably see things you used to do that you maybe don't care for as much anymore, maybe cringe. I love shots like this, just kind of off the topic really quick. Everybody gets this shot right here where, you know, you're kind of zipping up or getting somebody, in this case, grandma, to zip up the back of the dress. I love doing this one too. I'll just get mom or grandma or maid of honor, whoever's there, and I'll just let them know, like, hey, like, can you just fix the bottom of the dress? Like, I'm gonna get ready to take a full-length portrait of the bride. And then while they're doing this, I'll usually try to get a couple little detail candid shots of them just fixing the dress. I always think it's a nice touch. The brides, my couples, usually seem to like it. You guys can hear my dog in the background. I'm sorry. She's starting to play with her toys. She's making noise. But she's a good girl. Something else with my old editing style is I was really into really vivid color, and you can see here how blue his suit is. I don't think his suit was really that blue back in the day. Like, and you'll see when I apply the new preset, that's gonna get toned down quite a bit. So there's the new one. Now my new ones, my current presets are definitely a little bit more muted, definitely a little bit more subdued color-wise. The biggest difference though is with these greens. I really, really dislike, like, to me, these are like really neon nuclear green, and I really do not like that. That's definitely something like I definitely have come to really dislike. And so it's something that my current editing style definitely tries really well to get rid of. And actually, I do have I've got these tone adjustments in here as well. And so if you really want to make these greens even more subdued, I've got like a minus green and a shift green. The difference between them, minus greens tends to make the greens a little bit darker. Shift greens tends to shift them a little bit more into the blues and get them away from like this greenish yellow and get them more towards like a coolish minty green. So anyway, so that's what that's there for. But that looks pretty good to me as is. Here I'm just gonna hit previous and pull in that previous edit. Now with these, what I probably could do is start doing a little bit of syncing and making this go a little bit quicker. So that looks good. So like these here are all pretty similar, so I can just go ahead and like shift click, select all of them, and then hit sync, and then make sure that I've got everything. So white balance, I can probably remove. Exposure, the exposure should be set for all these individually, so I'm gonna unclick that, leave it as is. And then the rest of this I do want copied over, and then I'm gonna go ahead and hit synchronize, and then it should copy that all over to these four, and then that should look pretty good. I can just kind of go through here, do a spot check, make sure they look good, and they do. I'm happy with that. So moving on. So this is another shot I tend to like to do. I probably overdo it, to be honest, but I feel like I like these little intimate touches and these like little moments. I feel like they're nice to catch. So anyway, it's just something I like to do. And something I didn't, like when I did this wedding, it wasn't something I did as much of. I was still trying to, I guess I was still just getting into it a little bit. But now, like, I'll get them just kind of like stare at each other and be awkward and like laugh and like think about how weird it is. And then I'll basically just do like a circle around them and like look for like, you know, like her hand on his, you know, on his shoulder or whatever. And I'll try to get those like little moments. I always feel like that's a nice way to get some really cool like images that I know they'll love. So here what I'm doing in a lot of cases is just hitting previous, and then that's just copying over all the settings from the previous image, because these are all basically in the same spot, same lighting, same whatever. So I'm just copying it all over because it should look right, which it does. Now for these images here, I'll also make note, I did this wedding by myself. I did not have a second shooter, but I I brought a softbox with a a monolight, like a Explorer 600, and I used a big old softbox with a light stand, and I was hauling all this shit around. And that was something I was very big on trying to do back then. I kind of got away from it for a long time, where I did not do anything like that at all, ever, even with an assistant or a second photographer with me, just because it was such a time-consuming thing, and also just all the gear you had to bring with you. But again, like, I look at this image and I just love how damn good it looks. And so recently I've actually been starting to incorporate a little bit more of it back in, but in a little bit more of a reasonable way. Like, I'm not bringing as much gear with me or as big of a softbox. Trying to make it, I want to bring more of that back into my photography, but without doing it in a way that's too ridiculous and bringing tons of gear, and trying to find a good balance. Because I do love off-camera flash. I love the way it looks and what you can do with it. So this wedding was kind of it was like a summer wedding. Like, I think it was in August, and it was a very windy, somewhat warm day, and like all this stuff was just blowing all over the table. So it was really hard to get detail shots, because every time you'd set something up, you'd walk away to go take a photo, and then like 2 seconds later, the wind would blow it over again. So that was frustrating. So here, so again, I shot this wedding by myself, so I really wasn't able to go and meet up with Bailey before the first look. So I didn't get a chance of actually getting him getting ready. So what I did was I kind of faked it when we got to the venue after the first look. We had a few minutes. And now one thing about this room though is we had like this big old window on this side, so you get tons of natural light. And then back here you've got like fluorescent or tungsten or some other kind of weird light. So you get this weird mixed light situation. So for that I do have a preset that's developed for that. I think this is probably tungsten. If I go to auto, you'll see there's some magenta in this image, and usually fluorescent lights will typically have a little bit of a green cast. So you can see by hitting auto, and then you see it's pumping in a little bit of magenta. That's telling me this is probably a fluorescent light. So if I try my essential fluorescence, which is a preset that I've got specifically for that lighting scenario where it's mixed light, natural light, and fluorescent, you can see it evens that out quite a bit. It's not such a stark difference in color temperature, which I like. I'm gonna go ahead and warm this whole thing up just a little bit though, something like that. And I'm happy. I should have moved these bags in the background, but I was kind of in a hurry, and I didn't. See, that looks way better to me. Looks like I had gone back at one point and removed these, so we'll do that again. Just delete it. Little fire alarm back there. Smoke alarm, what do you want to call it? Sometimes it's really good, and then sometimes it does the worst job ever of removing things. Like here, you can still see the. Undo that again. And for the most part, I usually don't stress about little things like this in the background, like, especially, I don't know, like for the most part, it's just not reasonable to go back and remove like every single outlet or fire alarm in the background. But if it's something that's really noticeable, and if it's something like this that's super easy to remove, and it's only like 2 or 3 or 4 images, I'll go back and remove it. That's totally fine with me, but I'm not going to go through and like go crazy and remove every single thing from the background. So this one's pretty crazy color-wise. So we'll go ahead and hit auto. We'll fix it there, but then again, we'll use this guy, this mixed light for fluorescence. And we'll pump a little exposure and add a little bit of warmth back in. Looks good. Again, we've got the mixed light on this side and the window light, or the window light on this side and the fluorescent on this side. So it's a very mixed light situation. So usually a common fix for that is just to go black and white. and I don't feel like messing with it, so I'm gonna go ahead and go black and white, and I like that. Best man, he was actually, he played the opening or the processional music for the wedding, which was kind of a cool touch. And, you know, how much the couple really appreciates this, I don't know, but I feel like it's little details like that I think go a long way. You know, and I know for myself, like, it's one of those things where, like, when I look back at old photos of my life and events and whatnot, like, I'm always surprised in regards to which images I end up being really sentimental about. Like, in the moment, I may not have been, but then, you know, I'll look through images from when I was a kid, and there'll be these random little details of things you forgot that you end up really appreciating. So, you know, I in general just really like getting details in general. So I just tend to maybe overdo it, but if it's there and I'm not really wasting any time, I'm more than happy just to grab extra details. Because again, you don't really know what, you know, is or isn't going to necessarily be important to them. So, you know, just grab the details that you can. And then, so for this particular wedding, like the ceremony was definitely kind of midday. It was like maybe like 1 or 2 p.m. in a summer afternoon. So definitely very harsh light. Thankfully, like Lindsay and Bailey are basically models. So for them, like even with harsh light, it still looks really good on them, which is a blessing. Yeah, old edit was very, very blue. I don't know what was going on there. But kind of is what it is. So for an image like this, you can see we got the sky behind them. They're kind of in shadow. I do have like this HDR edit or this HDR preset, which again, same tone structure as all my other edits, but the idea behind this one is it's for HDR scenes. So if you've got, you know, if your couple is in shadow and then like if the background is really blown out, I'll use this HDR one. It kind of pulls it all together a little bit more. So that's what that one's there for. So most of these, like I said, they've all got the same underlying tone structure. Everything is really just about kind of applying that different tone to different lighting scenarios. So the same thing here, that could work, maybe. Nah. I think in this case, I'm just gonna let this guy go and go with my base preset. And then I'm just gonna warm it up quite a bit. And then again, I've got this tone addition, these tone add-ons, whatever you want to call them. So I've got one for warm and one for cool. Basically just adds in a little bit more warmth, which I'm going to do for that particular image. And just to be clear, like this video isn't about my presets. Like, I mean, I have them on my website. You can buy them, but that's not what this is about. Buy them, don't buy them, I don't really care. But again, like I said at the beginning of the video, like the point is really just, you know, get presets that aren't too extreme, especially like if you're not 100% confident in your own editing. Like I definitely believe it's worth it to go out and get presets from a trusted source. Like there's a lot of really good brands out there. Like there's like Tribe, there's Soulmates, there's Ben Hartley's got his presets. The Heart presets or whatever they're called. I forget exactly what their name is, but his presets are really good. SLR Lounge, like I forget his last name. They've got the developed presets, which are kind of the same approach that I have. They're very like lighting scenario based, and their work's amazing. So I'm sure I don't have their presets, but I'm sure you would probably enjoy them. There's looks like Film has really good presets for weddings. There's a lot of really good brands out there that have some really great stuff. So if you're, like I said, maybe not 100% confident in your editing style and you want to make sure that whatever you're delivering to your couples is going to be something that's going to be, you know, timeless, and, you know, you want to make sure that it's going to look good a couple years down the road, they're probably good places that jump off. And then and then while you're doing that, you can develop your own presets. And once you get comfortable and you feel like the presets that you've developed for yourself that match your style, and the way you like to shoot, then you can start using those. That way you don't like do weddings or engagements and look back at work like 2 years ago and be like, what the hell was I doing? I can't believe I delivered that to my client. That's what I would recommend. Nope, not gonna do that. Let's go ahead and reset that. So one note on straightening things. You can definitely use things in the background like, doorways or frames or like naturally vertical lines to straighten things out. But sometimes depending on the perspective and what you're shooting the scene from, that isn't always the best thing to use to square up your frame. If you're ever in doubt, square up your frame to whatever your subject is. So in this particular case, it's going to be, my couple here. So I'm going to straighten the frame primarily based off of them, not necessarily the background. So you can see if I hold that window frame in the background isn't necessarily 100% square frame or square to the frame, but level your image to your subject, whatever that may be. In this particular case, it's the couple. So that's gonna be the main thing I'm looking for is straightening it based off of them. So just a word of wisdom there. That would be my recommendation. This is just very, very hot in terms of highlights. Oh, what can I do? Soft white, let's maybe pull that down. And then also, I feel like it's too warm. So another tip when it comes to white balance, if you're ever unsure where your white balance should live, one thing you can do is like either go way too cold or way too warm, and then just incrementally like bring it up. And eventually, like at some point, like right there, it starts to look, okay, that looks natural. And then usually what I'll do is I'll go just a little bit warmer than that. I tend to like my images a little bit warmer than probably reality. All right, so this image right here, even though it's in color, it's definitely it's screaming black and white to me. So I'm going to go down here to my black and whites presets and get my base black and white, which is this one. And yeah, I actually really, really like that. I might even bring the blacks down a little bit and really like over accentuate the starkness between shadow and light. It does kind of bother me that I clipped off the top of the building here. But otherwise, yeah, actually, I really like that. Again, like I said, I do like doing these hand shots. I don't know, it's like little touches like this. I feel like they're intimate moments, right? And I don't know. I'm right there. Might as well grab it. Hey, what do you know? It's another one. And that did a weird crop, so let's undo that. First kiss. Using that HDR again. For some reason, like on this one, I kind of want to add in a little bit of grain. I don't know why. It's telling me it needs a little bit of grain. So in here, I've got like basically presets for grain. I've got light, medium, and heavy, and then one just to turn it all back off. I think I might add in like a little bit of medium grain. You probably won't be able to see it through YouTube, but it looked good to me. Yeah, the blues in this editing that I was doing back then was just a little bit too much, especially in the shadows. Definitely glad to fix that. I love this shot. I wish it wasn't in front of a parking lot, but it's kind of like, so this was at a golf club, and when you walk out back to where they kind of like they came in from and where they exited to, unfortunately there's just a parking lot right here where everybody was parked, and my car's like literally like right there. And I mean, it is what it is. There's only so much you can do. At the end of the day, like I'm more than happy to get a moment like this in front of a parking lot than not to get a moment like that at all. Kind of just the way it goes. But yeah, I mean, kind of just is what it is. It'd be nice if we had like the perfect background for every image, but again, the most important thing in my book is just capture the moment, regardless of where it lies. So some family photos. I didn't include a ton of these in here, I don't think. There's really not much to say about them. Typically when I do them, I'll have an umbrella, like a big 60-inch umbrella. In this particular case, and I usually do the umbrella because I'm usually indoors. In this big case, they did the reception and the ceremony in the same place. You guys probably noticed, or maybe you didn't notice, I didn't really bring it up. But if I go back, so the reception, they set everything up outdoors, and this is the same setup for the reception. So they didn't really have like a very traditional like aisle, or it wasn't a church wedding or anything like that. So because this was already all set up and all the guests were already here, and there really wasn't much room up here in the very front to do family photos, I just chose to bring them down here onto the golf course with the building behind them, and do the photos back here. And since the lighting was really good, we found a nice patch of shade. There's really no need to bring out any sort of external lighting. But typically, if I'm indoors at a church, I'll definitely do like more. I'll do a more traditional like big old umbrella with like an AD200, and I'll use that to light the group. But otherwise, I think these all look pretty good. Kind of like a mid-afternoon, bit of shade, and yeah, I'm happy with these. I'm going to resync these with the white balance though, because these are all very much in the same place, but the previous version of the edit didn't really account for all of this green. There was really no magenta push. And so I want to pull out some of that green cast from the skin by making sure that magenta's in there. So that's what I was doing there, is just resyncing that again, just to make sure that the white balance and the tint was looking pretty good. And yeah, for the most part, these are just somewhat representative of the family photos for this particular day. I kind of wish, I don't know what happened here. I think there must have been a lull between families because I kind of shifted my perspective from this angle to this angle. In an ideal world, I would have had them all very consistent in the same spot, but sometimes it happens. It's not the end of the world, but just something to be aware of and look out for. And also when it comes to family photos, like I do the same approach as I do with like couples photos or whatever else. I love getting candids of all the family together. So after we get like the more standard, hey, everybody look at the camera, I'll usually do something like, hey, everybody look at each other, look at the bride and groom. Like I'll try to find something to get them all to just to be silly and laugh. And they pulled it off perfectly. And having the little baby here, she was too cute. So really, I love everybody's individual expression and reaction in this photo. So whenever I can do something like this, I try to. I think it's always a fun addition. And, you know, because family photos, they tend to be a little bit boring, if I'm honest. It's not exactly my favorite part of the day. So by doing stuff like that, it makes it a little bit more enjoyable for me. Just to find a way to one, just liven it up a little bit. And I think the couples enjoy it too. They get those fun little moments. I think dark looks a little bit better here. And then again, I've got this tones adjustment, this warmth. It just adds a little bit more warmth into the image. So I'm going to use that here as well. I think that looks really good. That looks fine. Candid moments. I didn't include very many candids in this particular set of images, but I try to really focus a lot on these in a wedding. I love getting reactions like this. And my big overall philosophy when it comes to like getting candids at a wedding is you always need to be looking for some sort of either a laugh or like a tear or some sort of emotion. The last thing you really want to do is to get a bunch of images of people just kind of looking straight-faced and bored. Because even though like they're probably having that time of their life and they're really enjoying their day, if like, the couple just get a bunch of images of their guests looking bored, they're going to think, man, they really didn't enjoy my wedding. And you don't want that. You want your couples to know that, you know, their friends and their family had a great time. So, and rather than waste frames or waste my time having to go through and call images that aren't going to be keepers, I don't even bother taking my time unless there's going to be a reaction. And sometimes you end up getting a bunch of them where you miss it. Like, you know, like you just barely miss somebody having a great reaction or a laugh or a, you know, an intimate moment or whatever. You'll definitely still get frames you won't end up using. But for the most part, really, I try to focus on anticipating those moments as best as I can, because ultimately, like, it's moments like this that I want to deliver for candids, and not boring, straight-faced whatever images. So yeah, that's definitely a skill in itself, just anticipating moments like that. And I'm not saying I'm by means a pro at it or I'm the best at it. I think it's something that we can always be working on. But you know, again, if you're relatively newer to weddings and you're looking for something to be on the lookout for, I would definitely say that's it. Yeah, for some reason, I don't know. Partly probably because I keep moving around the area. And again, I was the only person at this wedding. I didn't have a second shooter, so I was really trying to really do my best to get as many angles as I could. So I was kind of running around like crazy. And as a result of that, unfortunately, and also probably just partly due to the images I selected for the video, it seems like I really can't just do a batch edit. Like I can't just sync a lot of photos. It seems like I've really got to like individually edit every single one of these. But normally if I'm editing a full wedding, which eventually sometime this year when we finally get back to shooting weddings, I'll definitely plan on doing another video where I edit a wedding from scratch, and try to show you guys how I actually would do that, give you a better idea of what that would look like. So this is another image I do, or I used to. I still sometimes do it. I don't do it as much anymore. I don't know, like it's not to like, I feel like sometimes people think I do it because I'm trying to like call out the person who's got their phone out at a wedding. I'm not doing that. For me, it's just fun to do inception shots like this. Like, I don't know, they're kind of dumb, but at the same time, sometimes you get really cool and fun ones. So I don't know, man, like it's just something I do. Kind of a wide shot of the venue. So an image like this I'll do for both the couple as well as the venue itself. I feel like images like this one, like close up of the grass and like whatever, like this stuff makes good like cover photos for a Pixie set gallery, or for like a filler page on an album or whatever. Like it's just in the venue, sometimes they might appreciate it. So so shots like this, it's a little bit for the couple, it's a little bit for the venue, a little bit both there. But it definitely does tell part of the story of the day, so I think it's important to cover it. And yeah, like I said earlier in the video, like Lindsay and Bailey, they were like the quintessential model couple. Like you would almost think that this was a styled shoot, but definitely not legit wedding. They were just like perfect models. For these images, and like so, along with the whole idea of editing styles changing, since I did this wedding, my posing style has definitely changed a lot as well. Like if I were to redo this wedding, there'd be a lot more motion, a lot more movement involved in this. They wouldn't be so static, just sitting on the bridge. They did want to incorporate like the building in the background and the bridge into some of their photos, but I definitely think I would have done it in a different way. I would have had more motion involved, even though, I mean, like this image right here, I still love. I love her expression, and it's really kind of intimate and close, and I know they loved them, but nonetheless, this probably wouldn't be my approach to posing them nowadays. But anyways, that's the last image. I think for the rest of this wedding is really just kind of like them hanging out. They didn't really do first dances. They didn't really do any dancing. It was really just kind of hanging out, mingling with guests. And they had fire pits and they did s'mores. And that was really about it for this wedding. But yeah, that's kind of my process for going through and editing weddings now. Again, I got like my preset that I've developed that I pretty much use for all my weddings to ensure I have consistency from wedding to wedding. And then really for the most part, when it comes to individual photos during an editing session, it's really pretty much all up here in this basic panel. I really don't dive deeper into anything else unless it's a very particular image that really needs a lot of extra work, which definitely helps make the whole process go a little bit quicker, a little bit smoother, and then I can get these edits done and out and see my couples that much quicker. But anyway, guys, that's going to be it for this video. Again, if you guys haven't been doing this and you've got some spare time on your hands during quarantine, stay-at-home orders, whatever you want to call them, I definitely recommend going back and looking at old weddings, blogs, whatever, and re-edit some old photos, get your portfolio, your website, everywhere you have images, get it up to date. That way when your couples come and they find your work, they have a better idea of what they can expect when they book you, and when they get their images back. I definitely believe it's a worthwhile way to spend your time. Other than that, guys, that's gonna be it for this video. If you appreciated it, if you liked it, hit that thumbs up button. If you want to see more videos like this, I am planning on doing a few more videos over the next couple of weeks about things that you can do while you're at home, quarantine, stay at home, whatever. So subscribe if you want to see that. Otherwise, if you got questions, comments, anything like that, leave them down below. And that's gonna be it for this video. So until next time, stay safe. And now more so than ever with all this craziness going on in the world, keep shooting, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.